Good
afternoon and welcome to The Big Question on your Women Radio WFM 91.7. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Sumto Titilayo Ajama. Today on The Big Question, we're discussing fostering peace for national development. Fostering peace for national development. I'm joined by Adenike Quadri. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today on The Big Question.
Good afternoon, Somso.
Yes. All right. Fostering peace for national development. In our country, Nigeria, we have over 521 languages and over 1,150 dialects and ethnic groups. The four largest ethnic groups are the Hausa and Fulani, who are predominant in the north, the Igbo, who are predominant in the southeast, and the Yoruba, who are predominant in the southwest. There is so much diversity, and this is not just in dialects and tribes, it also extends to religion. We all have a common heritage, a common identity, and that is the single fact that we are Nigerian. And this is what informs this subject today, fostering peace for national development. All right, speaking with us today on this subject is Reverend Juliet Bainte, CEO, Lady Ecclesia Foundation. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us, Reverend Juliet. Are you there?
Good afternoon. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. My pleasure for being
Good afternoon, Reverend.
All right, you can call the number 07000 917 917, 07000 917 917 to contribute on The Big Question. We do The Big Question on Monday through Friday, 12:05 p.m. And, of course, The Big Question is the program where we discuss and prefer solutions to issues affecting us as a nation and as citizens. The number again is 07000 917 917. And you can also send your text or WhatsApp messages to 0703 175 6537. All right, going on to fostering peace for national development, it's very important that we understand how peace pertains to national development. So, Reverend Juliet, that's the first thing I would need you to give us just a link. Can you explain the link between peace and national development?
Well, thank you very much. Sure, that is very true. And every nation that was colonized only succeeded when they closed the gap of issues of peace. When a nation is highly divided, tribalism, division, poverty, that nation doesn't experience much peace, and it has been related. But I want to start with a statement made by one of the greatest leaders of the 20th into the 21st century, who is the Prime Minister of Singapore, the former Prime Minister, Lee Kuan Yew, in his book called Third War to First, in page 358, he said something that I'm just going to read quickly, then go into the main connection.
Okay.
He said a population explosion had increased the burden on resources. Inter-ethnic peace, which had been enforced by the colonial overlord, was difficult to maintain after independence with power in the hands of an ethnic majority. The elite had commanded popular support before independence, had to demonstrate their continual legitimacy in competing against the other parties. They had been unable to resist the temptation of appeals to ethnic, linguistic, and religious loyalty. The country suffered as the ethnic minorities were squeezed out, and the nation fell. So they did not have peace. And so peace is a prerequisite, because peace in itself, according to Albert Einstein, cannot be kept by force. It had to be created. And like my Gandhi say, an eye for an eye will make the whole world blind. So the reality is that the index, there is an organization called the Institute for Peace and Economics.
Okay.
Institute for Peace and Economics have proven beyond reasonable doubt that peace, for them, they define peace in two levels. They have what we call positive peace and negative peace. And for them, negative peace is just the absence of violence or fear of violence. While positive peace is about the attitude, the institution and structures that create and sustain peace. And of course, according to their own finding, and I mean a whole lot of research, which they also have, we have what we call the global peace data. that the more prosperous a nation is, the more peace they have. The more the GDP of per capita, the more the peace within the nation. And that peace is a prerequisite for survival of humanity in the 21st century. Without peace, it will not be possible to achieve the level of trust, cooperation, and inclusiveness necessary to solve these challenges, let alone empower international institutions and organizations necessary. So peace is connected with prosperity. And for IEP, like we call them, the Institute for Peace and Economics, say that there are 8 pillars. 8 pillars that must function together for peace to be in any society. If one of those pillars falls, the entire peace will fall. And those pillars that we need to know as a nation is, number one, a well-functioning government, equitable distribution of resources, free flow of information, good relationship with neighbors, high levels of human capital, acceptance of rights of others, low levels of corruption, and sound business environment. Each of these pillars together must work for peace. And it has been proven that each of these things put in place has a correlation to making peace possible. And so peace and national development is synonymous, because even for us as a nation, the 2 stanzas of our national anthem, we spoke about let peace and justice reign. We spoke about building a nation where peace and justice reign.
Yes.
And so we need to recognize that we haven't, as a people in the nation, concentrated on what we wrote as our national document, that we are one nation bound in freedom, peace, and unity. And we repeated it in the second stanza that we should build a nation where peace and justice reign. And we have not done that. And that's why even the prosperity that we want as a people cannot come to pass until we establish peace as an attitude, establish peace institutionally, and establish peace as something that people can participate in. So peace is not an illusion, it's not a dream, it's literally created for people to participate.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that explanation. I think it encapsulates everything that one needs to understand when the subject of peace is brought up in line with national development. So thank you very much again for that.
Yeah.
Okay, Reverend. Can we say,
Yes,
you talked about the 8 pillars, and while you were reading out those pillars, I was thinking, okay, more of these things are kind of missing in our economy today, and yeah, regardless of the fact that we have written it ahead in our anthem, So how can each citizen be responsible for contributing to the peace of Nigeria? And what I mean is, a lot of times Nigerians, we know how to talk, but when it comes to walking the talk, we lag behind a little. So how can each person contribute to?
First of all, peace is a character. For IEP, they call it an attitude, but I prefer to call it a character.
Okay.
Peace is something that must be understood and practiced right from childhood. We need to learn how to teach people what really peace is all about. In Islam, peace is salam. For us in Christianity, is shalom. So for both religion, we tend to tell ourselves that there is peace within our thought process. But how many of that peace has become character? Where is the character of peace that becomes the policy of peace, and for peace, then becomes the institution of peace, then finally becomes a nation of peace? Peace is not automated. Even like Einstein said, peace is created. So what has happened within our nation, that we have a lot of an elite class, a people who like talking, but they are not practicing, because within their own heart, the peace has not been ingrained. This His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, said something. Say, finding peaceful solutions to world's increasing complex problem would be a huge task, which must be based upon knowledge experience, and research.
Okay.
So the reality is that we have failed as a people to start teaching these things within the primary school level of what peace looks like. For example, one of the pillars of positive peace is good relations with neighbors.
Yes.
And that in itself, which is one of the, what we would call it, the principle that the whole world believes that you should do unto others as you would want them to do.
Yes.
These are things that should be ingrained, whether at the mosque level, at the church level, at the educational level, family level, and every level possible, that the attitude which involves both character and culture must become ingrained. Islam claims, oh, we are a religion of peace. Christianity claims we are a religion of peace. But where is the reality of the character and the culture? And therefore, our hypocrisy is showing up in many dimensions, and we are losing a generation that does not hear what we say, but they look at what we do. So we need to all go back to the drawing board, plus media. The media arm of the nation needs to begin to perpetuate the doctrine of peace. Can you imagine two people with the same language? Because sometimes in Nigeria we say, okay, it is the diversity of our language and culture, as the case may be, we are too diverse, right? Rwanda, just in recent times, the same two faction of people, one more elitist than the other, they both spoke the same language, but with a little bit of a different culture that was established by the Belgium and the colonial masters, created a chaos to a nation that within 100 days, almost 1 million people died and hundreds of thousands of women were raped. But for them to come back as a nation, they needed to do this pillar. Each of these pillars, Rwanda practices today. Nigeria needs to understand benchmarks. Society needs to understand benchmarks. We can't just have a homogeneous society, or a society that is united, or a society that can come together just by automation or wishful thinking or political speeches. It's by deliberateness of each arm of society taking responsibility to ensure that these things are possible. Others have done it. We are not the first.
Thank you very much, Reverend Juliet. It's 19 minutes past 12 on your Women Radio WFM 91.7. This is still the big question, where we discuss and prefer solutions to issues affecting us as a nation and as citizens. Today on the big question, we're discussing fostering peace for national development. Fostering peace for national development. I am Somto Titilayo Ajama, and I have here with me Adenike Quadri and our guest, Reverend Juliet Binte, CEO, Lady Ecclesia Foundation. So you can call the number 07000 917 917 to contribute on the program, to ask questions, to just let your voice be heard. And you can also send your text or WhatsApp messages to 0703 175 6537. 0703 175 6537. Now, Reverend Binte, I'm sending this to, I'm going to ask you this now. In line with everything you've talked about, the 8 pillars, the fact that Nigeria seems to be a country that just knows how to talk about peace, but not necessarily internalize it and act it. In line with that, knowing that the 2023 elections are just around the corner, 2022 is almost over. It will be over in a couple of months. And before you know it, 2023 is here. And then we're talking election day. So what factors can you point out? What factors do you think are conflict-causing factors? What factors do you think play a role in conflict that can, directly threaten the peace of the nation?
For example, we all know that the nation is highly polarized even at this point. We recognize that we are a country of 2 major religions. Other religions, of course, exist within the context.
That is true.
We seem not to recognize how things have gone down. We are dealing with the issue of poverty, high level of poverty, youth unemployment, and a whole lot of things. And here we are in the political season, and some politicians think that they are smarter by half than everybody else in this whole national stage. What causes conflict is mostly conflict escalates when people do not recognize the diversity of a people. Nigeria is a very diverse nation, and a nation like Singapore recognized the diversity, and the Chinese race was the majority in Singapore. But Lee Kuan Yew refused to make Chinese the lingua franca. He said that would give the Chinese race more power over all the other races that were within Singapore, which include the Indians, the Malays, and all other people. And he decided to make English the central speaking language in government and all that, while people kept their languages within their homes. We need to recognize that we cannot, with the conflict that Nigeria has been going through, that is skewed towards more religion and ideological than anything else, and nobody can take that away. Then you have parties who do not care about that diversity. For Nigeria to advance, we need parties and platforms that recognize this diversity and manages it excellently well. We're not interested in Igbo nation, Yoruba nation, Hausa, Arewa nation, and all those things that people like to just flaunt up and down for their self-interest. There is a Nigerian call, obey. In the Nigerian call, obey, they said to serve our fatherland with love, with strength, with faith. So love is a prerequisite for us as a nation to recognize. And therefore, we need to recognize that there are Muslim people in Nigeria, there are Christian people in Nigeria, both majority, and there are other people. And so in everything we do, we need to be considerate. The lack of consideration, when the Constitution was put together, yet imperfect, still had an understanding of what we call the quota system, although the quota system has been abused with mediocrity. The quota system was not designed for mediocrity, it was designed for meritocracy to take the right seat. I remember growing up when my dad was in government, we saw the meritocracy of even the civil service. It was not skewed towards religion, it was not skewed towards tribalism. Of course, every region has representation, but they got the best of the best. A nation that must have peace must be institutionalized, must do things right and be conscious of the diversity and how to unite diversity. Today we talk about the United States of America. Every state in the United States has their own constitution apart from the Constitution of the United States. Each state has their own flags, but they are united all together in a federalism where the national does not impose itself on the states. So a nation that must advance must begin to talk and discuss. We have too many intelligent people home and abroad, especially in the diaspora at this time, that we can all come together. What manner of nation do we want? But for people to think that they can ignore any part of this nation at the expense of trying to move things forward, they are telling us lies. And as Nigerians, we need to begin to do our own personal research of what nationhood is all about. We have been too ignorant for too long. Downloaded by colonialism, moved to elite capture of a nation, but individually with a youth budge, highest youth, maybe apart from India, we have one of the highest youth population in the world. And yet it's an opportunity to create the Nigerian dream and the Nigerian mindset. But we do not have the architects who can do that. And the political architects who are trying to undermine the people of Nigeria will not be accepted. People like me, I am ready for this 2023 to bring out the best for Nigeria everywhere we can, but not by violence. We need to talk more. We need to intelligently post things. We need to strategically speak up and not be denied the pleasure of speaking up as Nigerians, but not to abuse each other or bring each other down, but to look into the nation to see what is best for our country. Anybody who has shadiness, anybody who is corrupt, because I don't know if you heard me when I mentioned in one of the pillars. Did you hear one of the pillars was in one of those pillars? One of the key things about the pillar he said low
corruption
levels
rate
of corruption.
Yes.
When for we, Transparency International, we are among the most corrupt nations in the world. So how can you have peace? How can you have peace when youth have been at home for months on end? How can you have peace when you cannot negotiate with ASU for us to solve this ASU thing once and for all and let universities be independent, state by state, place by place, let every university be run on the merits of that city? How do we get the university to become more profitable and get students to do research that will bring forth the best results for a nation? Because if you see in one of these things, of the peace pillar, it said equitable distribution of resources, which is it said peaceful countries. Listen to this, and this is IEP, a high level of research. The data that was collected for this empirical facts to come out was humongous. IEP says peaceful countries tend to ensure equity in access to resources. Look at what they call access to resources. Education. Health.
Very important.
To a lesser extent, equity in income distribution. Did you hear oil and gas?
Nope.
Did you hear any other thing? Because many nations like Singapore, who has a higher GDP per capita than us, don't have one natural resource. Switzerland does not have one natural resource. Yes, they are a developing nation. They take our chocolate, they do it very well for us, we package it, and we're buying crazy. While Singapore even has refinery oil from third world nations who are refusing to do their own homework. So even equitable resources. You can't go to the hospital and have access to treat a common malaria. That is still one of the killers of children under 6. So we are in a crisis. So anyone who is coming within the space of politics for 2023 must be a man who, or a woman now, since they're all men now, the elections primaries are over, who has solution for these 8 pillars of peace. Number 7 says high level of human capital. IEP said a skilled human capital base reflects the extent to which societies educate citizens, promote the development of knowledge, thereby improving. In other words, people who can take mango from Benue and turn it to juice, have a factory to make one juice, have another pharmaceutical factory to extract the vitamin, have a animal feed factory to extract food for animals. We need people, thinking people, human capital people, not just educated. People with a focus of patriotism, a focus on the nation, sound business environment. What are the policymakers doing? The nation is hostile. The naira is falling against the dollar because we're an importing nation. The oil prices, we are not refining our oil, so access to industry is weak, power is weak, because we do not understand that sound business environment is one of the peace factors to promote a nation to become competitive. The more competitive a nation is, the more she will be prosperous and peaceful. Why? If you are busy, I am busy. Where will we find time to be hitting ourselves? You get the point?
Absolutely.
Even they say the lazy man, the idle man is the devil's workshop. You have a population of youth who are not activated for work. Companies, available industries, especially industrializing Nigeria, is not only power, it's more policy than power, because we have sunlight to be converted to energy, and even converting sunlight to energy to use for power is being hindered by policy.
Okay, so Reverend Juliet, there's something you talked about, which is, of course, government policies and the fact that these 8 pillars in Nigeria are not actually realistic or are not actually being implemented, so to speak.
They're not functional.
They're not functional. Thank you for that. They're not functional. So I want to ask this because a school of thought believes that with more women in governance, with more women-made decision makers, policy makers, people who can actually effect a difference, there would be more peace in the nation. So do you agree with that school of thought?
No, I agree, because one of the pillars of peace is good relationships with neighbors. If there's anything women can do is to create more relationships by bringing people together. You know, a woman in the home normally brings family together.
Mm-hmm.
A woman in anywhere a woman wants, except, the woman has to be extremely terrible. But nature of the woman is emotion and compassion.
Mm.
So the compassionate side of woman, and one of the other pillars is acceptance of the rights of others, women seem to be more accommodating to allow expression. And that's why they too want to express themselves.
Yes,
So,
that's true.
of course, equity. The issue of because I'm female makes me less an individual is a lie in culture that does not exist in any book, not even in Islam or Christianity or the Bible. So therefore, women inclusion is non-negotiable because in the ratio of 1:1, male-female, in taxing society, like I would say, being an ordained minister is that they say two are better than one. They have a greater reward for the labor. So even women becoming added value in high level, increasing women's level of human capital capacity, because again, one of the things that has happened over the years is just of recent, the girl child education question is still on ground though.
Absolutely, that is true.
So therefore, women are already weakened by lack of knowledge. So the weakness of lack of knowledge also is an issue that is urgent on the matter of educating the mind of the girl child. Because it's not only about women inclusiveness, but what manner and kind and quality of the woman being included. Because we are seeing women in some places, but they failed us. So we need women who have character of peace and the high level of education. And when we say high level of education, it's not necessarily all of us going to university. But no matter what, if a woman is a farmer, high level of understanding even farmer in the outdoor of it. If she can't go to a classroom, can she be equipped enough to take the farming skill to a higher dimension?
Thank you very much, Reverend Juliet.
Basic primary and secondary school education of reading and writing is paramount in any society. So if we're still at a high level of illiteracy in a nation that has the greatest black players in the world, we still have a large work. And that's why we cannot have anyone who wants to make our ship sink. But we need people to navigate this Nigerian ship to the right direction of national development and national growth, as the case may be.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I couldn't have said it better. Thank you very much for joining us today on The Big Question, Reverend Juliet Binte. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy and pleased to be able to contribute in this season. And anytime you want me and need me, just let me know on time.
Awesome.
I'm available.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Please enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. God bless you.
All right. We really have done justice to the subject of fostering peace for national development. And this subject was one that definitely needed to be talked about, particularly in light of the 2023 coming elections. And not just because of that, just because our nation is going through an entire phase right now with the high level of insecurity, religious differences, religious intolerance. There's so much going on across different spheres, and this definitely needed to be talked about. So thank you very much again to our guests for joining us on The Big Question. Thank you very much. Adenike, any final words?
Oh, well, I'm glad Reverend Bante did precise justice to the topic of peace and national development, because Nigeria is highly diverse. And lots of time, we have not leveraged our diversity to our advantage. You see a parent tell her daughter, don't bring a man from this particular tribe.
In Nigeria.
So, we're talking about elections now, and people will say, oh, there's one Muslim, Christian ticket, and so many stuff. But if we can lay our biases and prejudice aside, and let's love one another as a people, as a nation, and then we can talk about peace and growth together.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for putting it in that very simple yet precise way. And thank you as well to our producer, Praise Olatunbosu. Thank you very much for joining us on The Big Question. Everything that needed to be said has been said. And I hope that you took away the major thing that matters, which is peace for national development. You have a part to play. I have a part to play. Together we play that part and we indeed change the face of Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us today. Tomorrow is another time on The Big Question by 12:05 p.m. Do well to join us and continue to be a patriotic Nigerian. My name is Somto Titilayo Ajama. Good afternoon.
To sponsor this program, call the number 0816 480 7613.
Political arena.
This is the time for us to know those who have put Nigeria in this condition.
To a large extent, religious institutions in Nigeria have failed in enforcing the law, in ensuring that members are safe.
Over 180 million people, one country, one capital, 26 states, 469 National Assembly seats, 774 local government areas. This is Nigeria.
We should stop doing this.
WFM 91.7.